All right, we're live. All right, well, I'm going live because I'm just feeling inspired to share some lessons that I learned from working in corporate America as a graphic designer and a creative. I think it's pretty relevant because there are plenty of people who are, what's the text? What do you know? There's plenty of people who are getting laid off in their jobs and realizing that their long-term jobs that they thought were going to be secure and consistent forever are probably on the chopping block. And the same things that I experienced years ago are still happening. I'm still seeing it happen in the news today. So the first one is just recognizing companies are not forever. I used to work for the Sports Authority. It was a corporate retailer of sporting goods, and I worked for their corporate offices in Colorado. It was my dream job. I met some amazing people and worked with a extremely talented team. Just a lot of amazing people working in that marketing department. And I saw a lot of lives get ruined and absolutely upended and disrupted for several years because nobody prepared for what was obviously coming. So that big lesson there was recognizing the signs that a corporation could possibly be in trouble. Now, not all the time, but when a company says that they're restructuring, especially financially, uh, it could mean trouble. They didn't do that exactly at Sports Authority. The first thing that they kind of mentioned, we'd have these weekly creative meetings, and we started talking about what the future of a sporting store would look like, and we would break into individual teams, and we come and present them, and it just was like a creative challenge that we felt like was just to keep us inspired. But looking back on it, it could have been possibly to just get us geared for a possible huge change in the way Sports Authority was going to be operated, owned, or do business. Um, then the biggest one, which we had these quarterly meetings, and in this quarterly meeting, they had the financial chart of this is where we want to go, this is where we are, and they kept saying like this is where we think we're going. We think we're going. So I raised my hand in a room of like 40 plus people, probably more than that, and just said, "What if we don't get there? What if those financials don't get to these targeted things that you guys are saying?" And they really didn't have any answer for me. Weeks go by and we start having individual meetings with our marketing director talking about the company possibly having some restructuring going on. And that's when the lights kind of kicked on. And I started researching into the bigger business hierarchy of corporations. And I'm no business guru or know too much myself about it, but I found out about private equity firms. These private equity firms have financial portfolios that are full of corporations like the Sports Authority. And if these corporations on their financial portfolio are no longer assets and they become liabilities, they're no longer going to support them being on the financial portfolio. And they're either going to pass them off for another financial portfolio to buy, sell, and restructure, or they're just going to sell all the assets and liquidate, which is what they did with Sports Authority. The next big sign was they changed out the entire executive committee of Sports Authority. So I'm talking the CEO, the marketing, the CEO of marketing. So all of the executive branch of the company was then replaced. It's almost like they brought in the closing team. And when you look back at it too, these private equity firms, like these executives work for this private equity firm. And PetSmart was on the financial portfolio of the same private equity firm and these executives were coming from the same company. It was really interesting to see. And I could be wrong. You could probably look up and find something that could dispute this, but from what I experienced in research at the time, that's exactly what was happening. So recognize the signs, restructuring, financials, and then look at the history. I mean, as a retailer, we kind of missed the e-com bubble. They were slow to get up on the e-com store, and there was a lot of things that just absolutely crushed. Like Amazon was just absolutely crushing retailers at the time, and a lot of brick and mortar stores were already on the chopping block, and Sports Authority just happened to be one of the first ones. But when we went into the bankruptcy, they still assured us that things were going to be fine, but I knew better. I was redesigning my resume. I was encouraging other people that I was working with to redesign theirs, and I would even help them. But yes, it happened, and it came fast. And when that day came that they told us that we were no longer going to be a company, because no white horse like Dick's or Academy came and bought the assets of the company. They let it get to liquidation, and then so those companies could pick them up on pennies on the dollar. Yeah, people didn't know what to do. People were bringing their dogs into work. Merchandisers were leaving with clothes and shoes and all kinds of product. I mean, it was like retail Armageddon that I've never seen before. And we had a whole week of just knowing that Sports Authority was no longer and everything that we were doing was pointless. So don't find yourself in that situation. If you're experiencing some of these signs, start preparing. And this leads me into kind of the bigger picture of build a personal brand. Don't wait. That is probably one of the biggest lessons and takeaways I can get from working in corporate America is build your personal brand, build your company, your freelance company, whatever it is, and start getting financially literate if you aren't already. So you can start building a business, owning some assets that can protect you for the upcoming season that we're all probably going to experience. Let's hope not. But these lessons I learned from corporate America taught me a valuable lesson going forward, working for other corporations. So it took me a couple more times working with corporations and taking corporate jobs to learn I needed to go all in on myself and invest on myself. One of these jobs, I worked with a retailer that sold food. So a grocery store, a major grocery store, and I'm talking food. So something that sells itself. There's really, I mean, it's a no-brainer. That's going to be a successful company, right? Well, I got paid more than I've ever been able to earn as far as a salary goes. But I was more stressed than I had ever been in my entire life. And I wasn't the only one. I saw it through multiple departments. I actually saw 1 or 2 heart attacks in a 1-month span come out of the building because of all the high stress that was in this job. And I'm not going to name the retailer, but it was such a toxic work environment. And I won't get into those details because I can make a whole entire video about a toxic work environment, whether you're just being a baby and you need to get over it, or whether it's actually really toxic, or whether you just need to take care of your own personal life and your work life will follow in suit. But this was a real toxic work environment. I wasn't the only one. And yeah, that taught me that my mental health and my creativity was paramount. When the creative direction of the company was coming down from the merchandisers, they're not supposed to be creative directing this, but whatever they said went. And it turned into a lot of moving orange juice around into different boxes. It wasn't a lot of creative work. And any of the creative work that was to be had was outsourced to another agency, even though they brought in an entire creative agency that could have done the work. So the whole job was I was brought in, they were bringing in an entire internal creative agency, and we were supposed to do all the creative work. Well, they outsourced plenty of the creative and even hired an agency of creatives right next to ours. And it just made no sense. They were spending money left and right. A quick funny story is they had these these monthly town halls, and it was company review time. And I wrote a review, something along the lines of, the CEO spends all this money to have these big extravagant meetings and shows every month to tell us that they're going to be closing more stores. And it's obvious that they've spent I think they used to spend 10 grand a month on these meetings. It was absolutely ridiculous. So the way that they were spending money was a big red flag to me. And just seemed all to stroke the CEO's ego for him to have a good time. And I said that in my comment, and they read these comments out loud to the entire company. Okay. And I'm sitting there dying inside because they read this horrible comment I had written out loud. And I just was trying everything I could to just not laugh and also burst out in embarrassment. But man, oh man, that was a big lesson right there, that no matter how much I was going to get paid, it didn't matter because of how much stress I was under. I was thinking about becoming a janitor, like no lie. I was like, I want to clean toilets instead of have the pressure of working this high stress job. And at the end of the day, we were putting orange juice in boxes. So we weren't solving rocket science. So I did leave for another job with less pay, but the promise of more creative work. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. My final lesson was invest in yourself. Uh, you're the only one who's going to find your way out of this. If you think the only way to be successful is to work for somebody else, that job could be taken from you. Anything can happen in life that could affect your performance. For me, it was a divorce. I became a very just depressed person. I was not happy. And ultimately, it affected my job performance, which led to affecting my attitude, which led to me losing my job because I was just brutally honest about things. I think I even told my boss at the time he was paying me too much to put logos on things because they hired me as a senior designer, brought me in uh, to work with another gal who was a great designer, probably even better than me, knew more than me. But they brought me in as the senior designer, and we worked as equals with no level of responsibility change in what we did. So it was just kind of like a confusing role for me. And it didn't make sense for me being a big picture guy to be paying me as much as they were to put logos on boxes and do the same thing she was doing. If there was creative responsibilities to be had, it was being taken over by the project managers of each project. So when I did vocalize that, I noticed my responsibilities drop off. I noticed a different attitude from the employees around me. People that were normally happy and helpful with things just kind of ignored me. And yeah, it was not a fun time. But luckily, when the day came, I opened the door to my. He said, "Hey, I got to talk to you." I opened the door, and HR was sitting there with him, and I knew exactly what was about to go down. So I took it on the chin, and I told him exactly how I felt. Luckily, they gave me a severance, which was really nice, and I invested that into myself. I went on a month-long or more road trip with a best buddy of mine to ultimately end up go trimming weed out west at a farm and make some money that I used to further invest in myself and create How's It Creative. So that's kind of how How's It Creative came about. Was I got fired from my job in 2018. Uh, I didn't know what to do. I had 2 weeks of pay, and my buddy was going out west, and I said, I'm leaving. I'm leaving all this behind, and I'm going to go figure something else out. I needed something. I was in deep depression from my divorce, from losing another dream job that I thought was going to be the answer to all of my problems, and it wasn't. And I didn't know what to do. I wanted to quit creativity. I really had no idea what to do. So hence me going on a road trip, having the time of my life, and ended up trimming weed for some money for a while. So that was the foundation of what built How's It Creative. These corporate lessons, one after the other, building this foundation of you are the only person who's going to save you. And however that comes about, it could be for you building a company, building a product. For me, it was answering the call of custom creative solutions for my local community, small businesses and individuals. So I started providing digital art and design solutions for them. And that was way more meaningful and felt way more successful than it did ever if I were to work for Nike or Adidas designing their ad campaign. To be able to deliver a logo package without the oversight of 7 different departments telling me what to do and having that direct client relationship is something that I believe I've been able to build a personal brand on, which is now I'm now specialized in event posters and apparel design, and I'm doing this full time. Uh, the ebbs and flows are for real with a full-time creator, but the lessons that I learned from working corporate life full time for years, it is well worth any kind of pain and any kind of learning lessons that I have during being a full-time solo creator, if that makes sense. Yeah, these lessons are something that I think a lot of people are experiencing right now. Like I said before, people are losing their jobs. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to stop happening. AI is going to keep coming after people's jobs, and it's going to be a wild ride, especially with Adobe Firefly coming out. I'll have to do a video on that once I gain access to it. I look forward to using it to its full potential. It is absolutely a powerful tool. But the lessons from corporate life essentially taught me to learn the warning signs when a company is going to go under or when you yourself are about to get fired. Recognize the importance of your own mental health and your creativity, and figure out the steps and the action plans it's going to take for you to move toward a less toxic environment for you on a professional level. And then the last one is to invest in yourself and stay determined. I have been doing this full time as How's It Creative since 2016. Not full time, excuse me, for several years while working for other corporations. I was building my personal brand, moonlighting jobs in the evenings until 2 years later in 2018, I went full time as How's It Creative. So, and then since then, it's only grown. COVID killed the business, but I got into home inspecting. I pivoted. That was able to support me. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue that for a career, but I am doing the creative full time again. And these lessons help me avoid taking really irresistible job offers during that time that could have saved me, but I decided to go in all on myself and to continue building my business. I got offered jobs from, a company that I idolize here locally in Jacksonville. I got an offer to work for a ad agency. The list could go on, but all of those companies no longer do business, from what I understand, after COVID, and I'm still running strong. So the value of staying determined and investing in yourself is one that I will hold with me, and I will value my time in the corporate world forever. So if you're out there, if you've lost your job, if you think that you might lose your job and you're creative, have no fear. This is really the most exciting time to be alive as a creative. There are so many different ways to utilize your skills to provide values to clients, even with the rise of AI coming. So I really hope this video was somewhat helpful, a little bit ramble, but this live form seems to be more of an organic way for me to talk other than just record and having to edit and make some poppy, really polished video, because in reality, life's a bit messy. Things don't happen the way that you think. And I hope you guys value this, and let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe to this channel. That'd be awesome. It'll help the YouTube algorithm find this page. And yeah, all right, peace out.